Kerik. He was New York City's police commissioner during the September 11th terrorist attacks, and we're very honored to welcome him here today. Mr. Kerik is actually a 5th degree master instructor in the martial arts, studying both Korean Taekwondo and Japanese Karate, and he has been inducted into the Centurion Black Belt Hall of Fame. In August 2000, Mr. Kerik was appointed the 40th Police Commissioner of the City of New York. His term was marked by dramatic reductions in crime, enhanced community relations, and his unflinching leadership and oversight as he led New York City through the devastating attacks on the World Trade Center. He oversaw the rescue, recovery, and investigation of those attacks. In 2001, he was one of the founding members of the Board of Trustees of the Twin Towers Fund, which raised and distributed $216 million to over 600 families related to the emergency service workers killed on 9/11. In the line of duty, Mr. Kerik has rescued people from burning buildings, he's been stabbed, shot at, and saved his partner, who had been wounded in a gun battle. He survived the terror attacks on 9/11 and a bombing plot in Iraq. He has been the target of numerous death threats, seized tons of cocaine and millions in drugs proceeds from the Cali cartel, and brought cop killers, Colombian drug lords, and Iraqi terrorists to justice. He's also the CEO at the Kerik Group. He's a former special advisor to His Majesty the King at Amman, Jordan. He's the former special advisor to the President in Guyana. He's the former senior advisor to the presidential envoy of Iraq at the Department of Defense. He's the former police commissioner, as I said earlier, the former correctional commissioner at New York City Department of Corrections, the former first deputy commissioner at the New York City Department of Corrections,
We wouldn't have gotten out of here until about 6 o'clock tonight if she kept that up. First, I want to thank Master Joe for the invitation to be here, and my friend, Grandmaster Jeff Smith. For the kids in the room, the young students, who's about 13 years old in here? A couple of them, right? A lot younger, wow. All right, when I was 13 years old, I got involved in the martial arts. I got my black belt when I was 16. When I was 16 years old, now this is a long, long time ago. When I was 16 years old, Grandmaster Smith was on the cover of Karate Illustrated magazine, Black Belt magazine. Every month, he was like an icon. And there were a bunch of guys with him, Joe Corley, Joe Lewis, Jeff Smith, a bunch of guys like that I looked up to when I was a young man, and I wanted to grow in my life, in my career. These are the guys that I looked up to. And later on in life, I got to meet them. And I got to be very close and personal friends with them. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and I'll try to make this quick. I was born right here in New Jersey. I was born in Newark. I was raised in Patterson. I had a pretty rough life. I was abandoned by my mother when I was 3 and a half. My mother was beaten to death and murdered when I was 9. I went to Eastside High School. For the parents in here that have seen the movie Lean on Me, Joe Clark, Eastside High in Patterson, well, I was one of those kids that went to Eastside. I dropped out in the 11th grade. Not sure where I was going, what I was going to do. Eastside High School was not an education center. It was an institution where you learn how to survive. Well, I did pretty well. And the turning point in my career, I think, was the martial arts and my military service. I went in the service when I was 18 years old. And if it wasn't for the martial arts and my military time, I'm not exactly sure where I would have wound up or whether I would have still been alive. So I give an enormous amount of credit to the arts and what it taught me. The same thing it teaches the kids in this room. I've had a crazy life, I've had a crazy career. I've done just about everything you can think of in law enforcement. I've been a cop, a correction officer, a detective, a warden of a county jail. I've run the biggest, largest jail system in the United States, Rikers Island, for 6 years. I ran the NYPD. I had 55,000 people that worked for me, a $3.5 billion budget. And unfortunately, I was there on 9/11 when the first and second plane slammed into Tower 1 and 2 of the World Trade Center. I lost 23 people that worked for me on that day. We lost 343 firefighters and 37 Port Authority cops. It was our worst day in the country's history, but to me, I got to see the worst and the best in humanity. We effected the most substantial rescue mission in U.S. history. 20 to 25,000 people were taken out of those buildings, and we evacuated hundreds of thousands out of Lower Manhattan, into Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Staten Island, and New Jersey. And my career went on. I worked for the King of Jordan, as the young lady said. I worked for the King of Saudi Arabia, the King of Jordan, the President of Guyana, President Bush. I was also the Interim Minister of Interior of Iraq. My entire career, which has been pretty substantial, all started with what these children are learning in this room. So for the parents in here, I can't say enough about what you're doing. I can't say enough about the dedication and the effort you're putting into your kids. And I say that from a very personal perspective. I have my own kids. One of my son, as a matter of fact, he's 32 years old. He's been on the Newark Police Department for 13 years. He's actually landing in about an hour or so, coming back from Puerto Rico. He was down there for 3 weeks on the relief effort. Everything you're putting into your kids is something that we need more than ever in today's society. I spoke about 4 days ago to a group of businessmen, some of the top businessmen in the world in New York City. And one of those guys at the end of my presentation asked me, what do you think the difference is in society today from the time you grew up to what it's like now? And I said, there's one major difference. Parents, when I was young, they really parented, and they were aggressive. And I use this one example. When I was a young man in Patterson, if a cop was walking down the street and it was late at night, it was getting dark, and the cop saw me on the street, he said, where do you live? I said, right here. So get in your house, it's dark, you should be inside. If I squinted, if I sucked my teeth, I rolled my eyes, whatever, the cop would grab me by the shirt, shove me into my house. And if I went upstairs into my house and told my father that that cop made me come home, then my father would crack me in the head and tell me, you should do what you're told when you're told now. It's not like that no more. Society's changed. And the parents in this room, you should be extremely proud of what you're doing. Because there's a lot of parents out there, but they're not doing what you're doing. Children have to learn respect and discipline. They have to learn that. They have to be taught that. It's not innate. It just doesn't come to a person. They have to be taught. We live in a time where almost every single day I see something on TV about race relations, and race and racist and all this other stuff. You know what? Look at the kids in this class. All colors, all ethnic backgrounds, and they get along just fine. Racism is taught. These kids aren't born as racists. Nobody's born as a racist. Racism is taught. And you have to teach otherwise. I've spent my whole life teaching my children there is no difference in color. There's no difference in religion. There's none. Well, we have political leaders out there today that will tell you different. I don't believe it. And I don't believe one bit of it. And I don't believe it because of things like this. You take these kids, you put them together, you let them work together, you let them train together, they become like family. And I know that because I've been in their shoes. And if it wasn't for that training And if it wasn't for the things that I learned through the martial arts, I would never be where I am today, I can assure you. So, I just want to, once again, I want to thank Master Joe for the invitation to be here, and Grandmaster Smith. I want to tell all the kids in here, good luck in your futures, and most importantly, I want to thank the parents for what you're doing. This country needs what you're doing. I only wish more parents were doing it. Thank you.